She's been in the WNBA for 2 minutes. There's no reason to hate her other than the amount of attention she's getting and her skin color. I mean, would this be happening to a black Caitlin Clark?
No.
Most people think Caitlin Clark's biggest challenge in the WNBA is facing tough defenders. But that couldn't be further from the truth. The reality? It's not just about defense. It's something far more dangerous. You see, she's not only being targeted physically, but is also at the center of a brewing storm of resentment and abuse, with racial and social tensions lurking beneath the surface. So what if I told you this isn't just a story about basketball? It's about a brutal culture in women's sports, one that's letting Caitlin Clark get hammered on the court while everyone looks the other way. But here's the shocking part. Megyn Kelly has a solution that could shake the entire league to its core. If you think you know the whole story, think again. What you're about to discover might change the way you see women's sports forever. Let's rewind to where this all started. Caitlin Clark took the WNBA by storm, making highlight reels with her insane shooting range and game-changing plays. But as her fame grew, so did the drama. The moment that set off alarm bells, an incident against the Connecticut Sun. During a heated game, DeWanna Bonner allegedly scratched Clark's eye with her fingernails. Clark was left with a painful black eye, yet the whistle stayed silent. No foul was called. Therefore, it sparked questions about whether Clark is being treated unfairly. But Kelly's accusations went beyond missed calls.
At the end, it seems pretty obvious to me, intentionally scratches Caitlin's eye with her long fingernails. She denies it was intentional, but watch, there it is. Hold on. So she goes for the ball, and then look, she points her hand down after the play, after the ball is past this player from the Sun. And it seems very clear she bends her fingers into Caitlin's eyes. There it is. She could pull her hand away. She didn't. And Caitlin had a black eye, and it was not called.
She claimed there's a culture of targeting Clark, describing situations that sound more like a boxing match than basketball.
It's resulted in physical alterations on the court that don't get called as fouls, that the girls then deny were intentional. And Caitlin Clark always takes the high road. She never, points the finger, but it happened again.
Imagine elbows flying, deliberate collisions, and even players bumping into Clark during timeouts. The evidence piled up throughout the season. Therefore, some fans started asking if the league is protecting its star player or letting her get hammered to satisfy the undercurrents of resentment. But where does this resentment come from? Kelly thinks she knows. She points out that Clark's fame has made some players angry. After all, about 70% of WNBA players are black, and Kelly suggests that some believe a white player shouldn't steal the spotlight.
Many black women inside the WNBA are resentful that this white woman came in and is getting all this attention.
This isn't just speculation. Prominent voices have raised the issue, claiming that race and sexuality play a huge role in how attention is distributed in the league.
People weren't going, Jake, because they were homophobic, racists. That's why the other girls resent Caitlin getting attention, because she's not black.
Jamal Hill even stated outright that Clark benefits from white privilege and pretty privilege.
I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. But I do think that she is more relatable to more people because she's white, because she's attractive.
Therefore, these claims are pushing the league into an uncomfortable spotlight.
She's from Iowa. This is a place that, while they certainly have a basketball tradition, they're not used to being on the national basketball map the way that she brought them onto the map. And that in itself gives it an underdog quality. She's from the Midwest, and a part that's not always talked about as being sexy and cool. And, so when you have somebody like, I think it was Travis Scott that showed up to her game in Iowa, like that's a huge sort of cultural marker for this entire phenomenon. And then you add, as I said, and I know a lot of people thought it was controversial, but I don't think it's controversial at all, is that, yes, you check all those boxes, and she's straight, and she's white. Yes, this all makes up for what is considered to be a marketing phenomenon for a lot of people.
But does this resentment justify what's happening on the court? The footage doesn't lie. Clark has faced physical plays that seem way beyond normal defense. The black eye incident is just one example. There have been times when players deliberately collided with Clark during inbound passes. Imagine trying to shoot a three-pointer and getting hit with an elbow, or worse, getting tripped on purpose. Yet game after game, fouls go uncalled and Clark never complains. Why does Clark stay silent? Perhaps she knows speaking up could make things worse. But Kelly won't let it go. She believes Clark's case highlights a bigger issue in women's sports, a toxic environment where being tough isn't enough. You have to survive.
But after a series of events where we've watched all season long and into the postseason, Caitlin Clark get abused and taken out. I mean, even during timeouts, people are intentionally walking into her, bumping into her, doing things mid-play and after the play. And if you don't know, Christine Brennan's so woke, I don't know how she ever sleeps. So this isn't exactly somebody coming from the Daily Wire or Fox News. So the fact that they're attacking her just shows you the WNBA continues to drop the ball on this whole issue. They got given the greatest gift of all time.
Kelly's comments threw gasoline on an already simmering fire. Fans are divided. Some think Kelly is exaggerating, but the statistics say otherwise. Clark's games have an unusually high number of fouls that aren't called, leading to speculations that there's an unwritten rule to let her get beat up. But it gets deeper. It's not just about race. There's also a gender angle.
Many black women inside the WNBA are resentful that this white woman came in and is getting all this attention. Nobody disputes that she's an amazing basketball player, but still they seem resentful and angry toward her.
Clark's treatment exposes a contradiction in how women's sports are perceived. On one hand, the league wants to promote fierce competition. On the other, it's expected to protect players, especially rising stars like Clark. Therefore, this puts the WNBA in a difficult position. Are they doing enough to ensure fair play, or are they dropping the ball? Kelly thinks the answer is obvious. She called out the WNBA for failing to protect its biggest asset. But what about the other players? Are they really as resentful as Kelly claims? It's complicated. Some players have voiced their support for Clark, emphasizing that basketball is physical by nature. But others admit there's tension. The truth? It's hard to separate fair play from targeted aggression, especially when emotions run high. But let's address the elephant in the room: race. Critics argue that Clark's fame is a double-edged sword. She brings in massive ratings, transforming women's basketball into mainstream entertainment. Yet some believe this comes at the expense of black players who've been grinding for years without the same level of recognition. The numbers back this up. Clark's games are breaking viewership records, which, according to Kelly, is why the league should do more to protect her.
Caitlin Clark's, quote, race and her sexuality played a role in her popularity, and she is symptomatic of how black players are erased.
Therefore, this puts pressure on the WNBA to find a balance. But is that even possible? If the league starts enforcing stricter rules, it might look like favoritism. If they don't, the accusations will only get louder. Clark herself has stayed out of the debate, focusing on her game instead. Yet Kelly argues that staying silent isn't an option anymore. The league is facing a crisis, and Clark's safety is now a matter of public debate. Still, there's more. Kelly's allegations hint at a culture of jealousy and even hatred within the league. She claims some players are more upset about Clark's attention than her actual skills.
She's been in the WNBA for 2 minutes. There's no reason to hate her other than the amount of attention she's getting and her skin color. I mean, would this be happening to a black Caitlin Clark?
No.
Getting the same amount of attention.
This paints a dark picture of the WNBA as a divided community, where race and sexuality influence how players are treated. But is this really the case? Or are these claims being blown out of proportion? That's the million-dollar question, and opinions are all over the place. What's undeniable is Clark's impact. She's often compared to Michael Jordan, not just for her talent, but for making women's basketball a spectacle.
She is the Michael Jordan. Like, I know you're not a major basketball
Him, I know.
but she is the Michael Jordan of female basketball. Every single player in that league, every single coach, manager, janitor, anyone who has anything to do with that league should be bowing at the altar of this woman. She is transforming the sport into something mainstream, which is what the WNBA was set out to do, and I think it started in 1994 or 1995.
Her influence is undeniable, and even critics have to admit she's brought more attention to the sport. But as Kelly warns, this could backfire if the league doesn't step up. And then there's the media's role. Journalists like Christine Brennan, who are known for their progressive views, have surprisingly come to Clark's defense.
Out there, for some, that Caitlin Clark has not had a good first month. I think she's had a great first month. She is being bird dogged and blitzed and double and triple teamed and covered all 94 feet. There is no one in the WNBA that has received that. Not Taurasi, not Jewel Lloyd, not Kelsey Plum, not Inescu, none of them. What does that mean? That means she's the most important player in the league. She's not the best player in the league, not yet, maybe never, who knows, but she's the most important because they're treating her that way. And I think that's fascinating. And these are defensive statistics, by the way, not mine. They're statistics in the league, that she is the most heavily defended player in the league. Not Taurasi, not any of them. So that tells me that people think she's the best, or I mean, that she's worthy of that. Not the best, but focus, whatever. She's the one you want to stop. And yet I saw her have 7 threes and score 30 against a really bad Washington team the other day in front of the biggest crowd, over 20,000 in 17 years in the WNBA. And then within a few hours, she was being told she wasn't on the team.
Brennan argues that this isn't about race or sexuality, but about how the WNBA handles its star players. Therefore, this makes the debate even more complex. Are we witnessing a genuine failure of the league, or is this a manufactured controversy to sell headlines? Meanwhile, Clark continues to dominate. Despite the abuse, she's putting up insane numbers, shattering records, and proving she's not just a one-season wonder. But every time she steps on the court, the stakes get higher. More people are watching, and the pressure on the league is mounting. Therefore, the question remains, how long can this go on before something breaks? So what's next? The WNBA is under a microscope, and changes might be coming. Kelly's explosive claims have forced the league to consider new policies, from stricter foul enforcement to better player protection. But here's the twist. Clark isn't backing down. She's made it clear she'll keep playing her game, no matter the hits she takes. Therefore, the league is at a crossroads. Will they act and risk accusations of favoritism, or do nothing and watch the drama escalate? Meanwhile, Clark's story is far from over. Her resilience could redefine the future of the sport, or it could all unravel in the most shocking way imaginable. Buckle up. The ride has only just begun, and the next chapter promises to be even more explosive.